Bill said, I'm reading from Coronado's Children, that part of it which concerns the sense of our minds. And when Dobie is collecting stories of all kinds, he of course always made his intentions clear. Dobie usually does that. He speaks of Coronado's Children by saying, I attempted an interpretation of the historical or cultural significance of the traditions of lost mines and buried treasure in America. I care much more, however, about the drama. And Dobie always did. His stories, I've known people, including myself, folk tales can send a chill up the back of my neck or grab a smile or grab a tear. I have also known people, after reading Coronado's Children, to have tossed aside the book and walked the land themselves. The stories are engaging. Dobie serves up the setting for this book by saying, what the Golden Fleece was to the Greeks, or what El Dorado, the Gilded Man, has been to South America, the lost mines on the San Saba and Llano rivers of Texas have been to all that part of the United States once owned by Spain. The story of these mines is a cycle made up of 1,000 cantos. It is a story of yesterday, as obsolete as the claiming of continents by priority and flag hoisting. It is a story of today, as realistic as the salt of the earth. It is also a story of tomorrow, as fantastic and romantic as the hopes of man. Through it, history walks unabashed, and in it, fancy sets no limit to extravagance. In seeking it, generations of men have disemboweled mountains, drained lakes, and turned rivers out of their courses. It has been found and lost in many places under many conditions. It is here. It is there. It is nowhere. Generally, it is silver. Sometimes it is gold. Sometimes it is in a cave. Sometimes in water. Again, on top of a mountain. Now it is not a mine at all, but an immense storage of bullion. It changes its place like will-o'-the-wisp, and it has more shapes than Jupiter assumed playing lover. Here's one of narratives about Beasley. Beasley has been dead more than 10 years now, and he was perhaps 85 years old when he died. As a youth, he came to live in the settlement about Lampasas. Following one of the Comanche raids, he went with a little band of settlers in pursuit. The trail was plain, and they rode fast toward the west. They crossed the Colorado and veered northward in the direction of the San Saba. The moonlight was too dim to reveal tracks, and so at dark, the trailers camped and awaked dawn. When Beasley went out early next morning to get his horse, he found that a coyote had chewed the picket rope, a rawhide riata greased with fresh tallow right in two, and that his horse had made tracks. It was well after sunup before he found the animal on the side of a rocky draw. He caught him and was making a fuss of him, a nose hitch used in place of the bridle, preparatory to mounting bareback, when his eye caught the mouth of a cave. There is something about a cave that draws all natural men. A cave may conceal anything. This cave faced east, and the rising sun was shining directly into it. Beasley led his horse over and peered within. For 15 or 20 feet, the hole sloped down at a steep angle, and then seemed to become a horizontal tunnel. The walls of the opening were reflecting and refracting the sun's rays like a chamber of mirrors. Beasley forgot at once both murderous Indians and impatient comrades. He made a pair of hobbles out of a bandana, and then with the free rope lowered himself into the cave. Now that he could examine the walls near at hand, he saw that they were lined, plated, cased with ore almost pure, ore that was undoubtedly silver. However, he did not tarry. As quickly as possible, he climbed out of the cavern, unhobbled his horse, mounted, and galloped to camp, where he found all hands awaiting him. He privately told the leader of the party what he had found. The leader chided him for having delayed the pursuit of Indians and at once took up the trail. It was a long trail, a twisting trail, and at the end of it, there was blood. When the frontiersmen turned back toward the Lampasas country, they left their leader behind. Now, Beasley had communicated his secret to no one else. He alone now possessed it. There was only one other person in the world with whom he would share it. Almost immediately, he went east to marry the girl who had been waiting for him to make a stake. He told his bride of the fortune was found, though not yet together. During the privations of the deserts of the then utmost frontier, the couple settled a few miles below the mouth of the San Saba River. Beasley picked the site as being near his silver cavern. He remembered exactly, he thought, where his party had camped that night, where he had found his horse, and where he had seen the metal plating flash against the early sun. He was a good man in the ways of camp, trail, unfenced range. Yet after he had established a home, a base of operations, and set out to work his mine, he could not find it. He was so disturbed that for a long time he would not tell his wife of his failure. When he told her, she encouraged him by going out with him. But the country settled up, and he went on looking for his cavern. In time, he told neighbors of his quest, of his rich find and of his loss. The years, by fives and tens, shuttled by. He farmed and ran a few cattle. He worked hard. He raised a family. But he never entirely gave up the search. When death came, he was still hopeful of someday recovering the fortune that one bright morning in his youth, when the lad was youthful like himself, had gleamed before his eyes. To this good day, however, Beeze's cavern, like the tomb of Moses, remains an unseen monument. Perchance the bald old eagle on the brave Axadel's height, out of his rocky area, looks on the wondrous sight. Perchance the panther stalking still knows that haunted spot, for beast and bird had seen and heard that which man knoweth not. So many there are who hold the Beast's cavern, and likewise the cave with icicles of silver identical with the Bowie mine. However that may be, while hunters are looking for caverns, walls of shining metal, a roof of argent stalactites, and floors strewn with pebbles of rich alloy, they had as well look also for pebbles of gold in a brook that flows somewhere in the same country. About the time that Captain Ben McCullough of the Texas Rangers was helping introduce the six-shooter to the horseback world, he detailed two of his men to scout for Indian signs west of the upper Colorado River. One morning they arose from their pallets out of that lonely and unsettled region to find their horses gone. A dense fog enveloped the hills and valleys so they could see nothing. Nevertheless, they struck out to find the horses. The fog held for hours. The best of woodsmen can become lost in such a fog. When this one lifted, the Rangers discovered they were lost. They had not found the horses, and now they could not find their way back to their saddles and canteens. They wandered all day. It was hot summer and a time of drought, and they were in a region utterly devoid of water. By the time night came, they were so thirsty they could not sleep. The lead, taken from cartridges they chewed, afforded no relief. Their whole object now was to find water, and as soon as they could see to travel, they pushed on. At length, from the summit of a low range of hills, they saw below them, far to the west, a winding line of green. What stream it marked they knew not, for they had not seen it before. Its waters were life, and they were so clear that the sun danced on the pebbles at the bottom. One of the Rangers, after the burnings of thirst were quenched, lay looking at the sunlit pool from what he had drunk, startled to discover that at the bottom of it was strewn a minute particle shining like gold. Calling to his companion, he said, "We have lost our horses, our saddles, and our guns, but we have found something better than all of them. Here is gold, gold, world without end." The shining particles, some of them as large as coarsely ground corn grits, were so thick among the sand and gravel, they had the appearance of being sown by the handful. The Rangers waded into the water and gathered them until each had a pocketful. Then one of them crept up on a turkey gobbler that was watering and shot it with a six-shooter. That night they feasted. On their way out, they stopped to rest high up on the shoulder of a long, rough hill. They were sprawled out on the ground, neither of them talking, when suddenly their attention was arrested by that peculiar cry of a hawk, so resembling the call of a young wild turkey. Looking toward the hawk, which was alit on a stunted, half-dead post oak, they noticed something sticking out from the crotch of the tree. It proved to be an ancient, rust-eaten pick, its handle gone and one point encased so deeply that it could not be removed. The other point stuck out toward the head of the little stream they had just left. Then the Rangers realized they were not the first who could discover gold in the region. They went on, leaving unknown prospectors' signboards still pointing. Late in the afternoon, they saw Packsaddle Mountain looming in the distance. From this well-known landmark, they got their bearings. Weeks later, they exhibited their gathering of nuggets to an expert on minerals. He pronounced the stuff to be what miners call drift gold. Gold that is washed downstream from Mother Lode. The Mother Lode, he added, might be miles away, but wherever it was, it must be exceedingly rich. On many a long ride in after years, the Rangers sought the golden pool. But though they were Ben McCullough's own men, plainsmen and woodsmen alike, they never found it again. It may be that the mute finger of the old pick on the shoulder of that long, rough mountain still points to the source of the drift gold. The granite hills of the Llano guard well their secrets. And in closing these dozens of stories, Dobie talks about the dream that will not die, the phantom that people chase. Shades of old Ben McCullough's Rangers, could you find your way now back to that brook paved with golden pebbles and marked by a dead man's pick? Shade of patient Beasley, leading at last, one may hope, her faithful wife in a land that has fulfilled its promises. Have you seen there any light to re-illumine the walls of a silver cavern that dazzle your youth? Shades of dead dreamers all, is there somewhere on the Llanos a hill of silver? Somewhere 3 suns west of the San Gabriel, a ledge of Comanche ore. Somewhere about the shattered and silent ruins of Mission San Savan, a shaft down to thousands of bars of Almagra's bullion once marked by fragments of Peon's Metate. Is there somewhere a lost, movie mine? Well, if you haven't done it for a while, you might pick up Carnota's Children, read some of Dobie's treasured stories. Some of them come complete with pretty good directions and maps. Try it late at night when you're by yourself, small light on, when dreams crowd the shadows, and just see if you can still keep sitting on that couch.